Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today. This is your host, ID Jester, and as you can see, we're going to be talking about and looking into Close Combat Gateway to Caen. So, those of you who aren't familiar with Close Combat, it is World War II infantry, combined arms, grand strategy, and also tactical battle simulation. And when I mean simulation, there is a lot of detail that goes into each and every individual unit, the individual vehicles, the different weapons, the sound effects, everything. It's attention to detail is one of the things that has kept the close combat system very dear to a lot of people out there. If you look at any of the Steam forums or the Matrix Games forums or the Slytherin forums where you can find out information about close combat, most everyone has nothing but positive things to say about this gaming system. And it's been going on, believe it or not, since I believe 1996, I think was the first release of Close Combat. And ever since then, just about every year, they've updated it with a new version. The last, I would say, 5 or 6 years, they've been re-releasing some of the older versions with the updated engine and releasing those with the updated fixes and new battles and everything that the new engine brings. Although unfortunately for us, this game engine that Gateway to Caen uses is getting to the point where it's been completely maxed out. There's not a lot left they can do with it, and really exciting to know that they are currently in development of a brand new close combat game called The Bloody First. And according to the details are kind of sketchy out there right now. The release date is supposed to be 2014, and it's going to be a brand new 3D engine with 3D terrain and 3D vehicles and sprites and everything. So all three-dimensional. There's only a couple of screenshots that I've been able to actually find, and from what I see, they look really, really good. So very excited about what's happening to Close Combat. Not only that, but as I mentioned, this, I believe, is the first and only Close Combat game that you can now pick up on Steam. And once it's been available on Steam, as opposed to like the Matrix or Slytherin websites, you've given access to a lot of people that probably didn't even know about it. I've always wanted to get into Close Combat and play Close Combat. The only thing that was kind of holding me back was the fact that the graphic engine seemed outdated compared to if we look at something like Company Heroes or some other bigger title. And I didn't know if I could really play with something that didn't look as good. But after reading all the reviews and people's comments and stuff, and everybody just raves about this game, so I decided to pick it up and try it out. And let me tell you, it has been a lot of fun. And I really, really am excited about Close Combat for the series and for all those people out there that have been enjoying this series for a long time, and that, number one, they're getting this series out to the masses by introducing it on Steam, and number two, they're creating a brand new 3D engine with really good graphics, and if they keep just the basic formula of the system the same and update it with the new 3D engine, I can really see that a lot of the people on Steam that hadn't heard of this title or weren't interested really in it, once they see the new game engine and what this combat system can bring, might be very interested in it, and that would give the close combat system a lot of support, and hopefully we'll be able to continue this on for many years to come. Like I said, this been going on from, I think 1996 was the first edition. Don't hold me to that. It's somewhere around there, 95, 96, 97, somewhere around there. And so it's been a very good system that has been used throughout the game. And like I mentioned, they just needed, I think about 5 or 6 years ago, they updated to a newer engine, and they've been using that. And this one, Gateway to Caen, is actually the last game that'll be used with that old engine, and they're switching over to the new engine. So let's look at exactly what Gateway to Caen can bring to the table for you if you're not familiar with the Close Combat system, and take a look at it and see if it's something you might be interested in. In the options, you can see there's really not a lot of options right now, and I think that's because, like most of the Matrix games or Slytherin games, they kind of have a niche, a following, sort of say, and they kind of say, "Here's the game. This is the way this is the way it is, and if you want it, then great. If you don't, that's fine too." So they don't put a lot of extra effort into creating a lot of options for the players. You can see there's a few different, whether you display certain things or whether you remove the trees or remove the soldiers. There's also a generals tab where you can adjust your screen resolution, the game speed, the scroll speed, sound effects. I've kind of turned that down so you can hear the recording, and whether the soldiers speak their native language or English. And of course the little about page, which you can either look at the developers of the game or the distributors of the game, Matrix Games, and of course Black Hand Studios. So that's the options. Like I said, kind of just generic, nothing too spectacular. In fact, there's not even any options in here to actually change the keys. So if you like you want to rebind a key to something else, I believe you could probably do that outside the game in like one of the INI files or something. You might be able to rebind it that way if you're really interested in doing that. I'm not for sure if you can do that or not, but that's one of the issues, I guess, is just the fact that they don't put a lot of time and effort, I guess, into just making sure that all the options are in the game that you can use. It does come with a very quick and easy editor. For those of you who've messed around with the Close Combat system some more, probably know a little bit more about this than I do, but I like to think of Close Combat as a combination of Company of Heroes, the PC game, and also the Total War series. And what I mean by that is you have this, depending on the mode you play in, you have this grand strategic overlay map, and you'll have your units scattered around the map. And I'm just going to throw a couple units out here to kind of show you. And of course we'll have enemy units scattered around the map as well. And this is, of course, is the editor, so you can set up any kind of campaign or scenario that you're looking to do. And then as you progress through the game, you're going to move units from one territory into another territory, and when you have opposing units inside a territory, that's when you're going to switch over to a tactical battle as opposed to like a strategic overview map. You'll get down to the nitty gritty, and we'll get to look at that in a little bit. So it does come with a really nice clean editor, all kinds of different scenarios that you could create, campaigns, whatever. You can create battles, operations, campaigns, all kinds of really neat things. I don't know much about it because I haven't really delved into deciding what much about this game, I guess. So on the 27th, you can have reinforcements coming in from maybe this direction into this space. All kinds of different things. So really cool editor, really easy, and I'm sure there's probably lots of user-created scenarios and missions and battles that are probably out there right now. Yeah, we'll leave the scenario editor. Of course, it does come with multiplayer. This is a head-to-head multiplayer where you can play against your opponent. I don't believe there is any co-op missions at all. It's all head-to-head, so it's you versus your opponent. And you can see we got a few matches here. You could set up different topics and say, I'm looking for a game or whatever. People email you or post messages here with you, and then you can find people to play with. And of course, if you have a current playing partner, you can of course hook up with them as well. So Yeah, we'll go back to the main screen. There we go. So that was the editor, the options, and the multiplayer. Of course, the thrust of this game is obviously this page here, where we're going to have battles. These are going to be one-time battles. This is you versus either the AI or your opponent. You'll see some of these. For example, if we look at this one here, it is a single-player German mission. If we look at this one, Capture the Flags is just a head-to-head mission. And so some of them will just be single-player, some will be head-to-head and single-player, and some will just be head-to-head. As I scroll down the list, I think there are about 30 different missions, or I'm sorry, you keep calling them missions, they're battles. About 30 different battles that come with the original game, and like I said, I'm sure there's probably lots of different downloadable battles, operations, and campaigns that other people have created by now. This game has been released for a couple months. If you look at operations, there are 2, 4, 6, 7 of these. You can again see all these are single player though. These are going to basically be 3 or 4 battles that link together. So you're going to take units from one battle into the next battle. So if they gain morale or lose morale or gain experience or gain medals, gain different abilities and stuff, you're going to take these from the one battle into the next battle. And of course, if you lose units, then you're going to make it harder for yourself in the later battles because you won't have access to those units. You'll only have so many different reinforcements that will come. So operations are basically battles, but they're going to be linking battles, 2, 3, 4 different missions, or 2, 3, or 4 different battles in a row. And of course, the real thrust behind Close Combat is, of course, the campaigns. There is 6 different campaigns that comes with the game. Again, you can see some of these are head-to-head and single-player, and some are just single-player. For example, the British Grand Campaign, the semi-historical, is just a single-player. And of course, the same thing for the German Grand Campaign, which is semi-historical. And of course, you do have the head-to-head and single-player Grand Campaign that is based on historical accuracy there. There's also user scenarios. Right now I don't have any downloaded, but like I said, I'm sure there's probably some out there that you can get. Any of these battles that you want to fight, you can switch sides, and depending on how the mission or the battle is set up, one side might be easier or harder. For example, if you look at this is a British mission. So if we play as the Axis side, it's going to be probably slightly easier for us because it looks like we're going to be defending. If we look at the Allied side, their mission is to capture and hold the victory locations, select only one tank, and no more than 2 mortars for your support. The remaining support slots fill as you see fit. The scenario is semi-historical. Alright, so it kind of gives you an overview of what's going on. You can actually go in and get some mission settings here. You can adjust each side's different... Oops, come on, click on it. Why can't I click on that? There we go, that one moves. Oh, there we go. Maybe I have to click on the... I was thinking I could just... Yeah, I can drag it. Okay. So, you know, if I wanted to make elite Allied units versus recruits on the German side, you can see that based on that, this is our morale. We have a lot less morale to lose, so it makes it a lot harder for us to actually win the scenario, while the German player would have a very high morale. This is basically a morale indicator, and you can win or lose the scenario based upon when your units break because they have no more morale. They lost too much morale. The units just start retreating off the battlefield, and the map will be over. You can actually click on different options here in the realism settings where you can always see the enemy. If you're having a hard time, it might be in the beginning a good idea for you to have that on so you can always see the enemy. You can see what they're doing. You can kind of plan out different ambushes and put your units in better positions and stuff. But there is a fog of war naturally in the game, so if your units can't see that's different area of the map, then it's grayed out and you would just not be able to see these units. Act on initiative, I'm not sure exactly what that does. Always see full enemy info, so if you want to find out all the details about the enemies and be able to see them all the time, kind of give you a slight advantage going into things. Obviously, if you're new to the system or just trying to learn things, it might be a good idea. Always obey orders. This is an interesting one because, like I mentioned, each different unit will have individual soldiers, individual vehicles, individual weapons, and you can tell your units, go over here and attack this building, and based on their morale and their experience level, they might say, I'm not going over there, what are you, nuts? And you can tell them, nope, you're always going to follow my orders, whether you like it or not. And then you can decide how the battle ends. You can choose whether or not morale gets too low. You can the scenario will be over. You can actually do it by time. It defaults to 30 minutes, but you can see you can go anywhere from 15 minutes all the way up to 60 minutes, depending. If you want to make it a little bit harder, you have 15 minutes to accomplish your mission. If you want to go a little bit slower, or of course if you just want to take as much time as you want, you can just unclick that. All victory locations taken is usually a good one to have on, because if somebody has all of the victory locations, it's usually the map's going to be over anyways. And of course the 2-minute warning. We can look at the mission briefings here to tell you again a little bit more about it, which side might be a little easier or harder to play, and of course you can adjust the settings that way. Way. Stay there. There we go. Okay, wanted to make sure he stayed on his little thing there. And like I mentioned, you can get into the operations phase, linking scenarios, and of course the big mammoth campaigns, which will be many scenarios, but they'll basically be upon how you set up the grand strategy map and what units you move around there, and of course user scenarios. So that's kind of an overview of the Gateway to Caen, and like I mentioned, this is going to be a title that I'm really looking forward to trying out and getting used to the system and playing it, so that way when the new Close Combat, the Bloody First, I believe is the name of it, comes out with the new 3D engine, I'll be more familiar with how operations. And let me tell you, this game is not easy, even on the easy level. You lose units that you didn't expect to lose. So actually having really good tactics and really sound tactical strategies play an important part in the actual outcome of the battles. You will get to learn the units and kind of understand, obviously if I got a machine gun nest that's in a building and I'm trying to assault it frontally with infantry, that is usually not a good thing. All your guys will end up dead and wounded, so you have to either try to flank it, throw smoke out there, bring up a vehicle, or try to destroy that position with mortars. So it's kind of almost like a rock, paper, scissors thing, but it's really more complex than that. It's almost like rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock. And that, one thing it does pretty good against something else, but maybe not as good as something else. And of course terrain comes into play as well, where if you're in the wooded area, it's harder to see your enemy, whether you're sneaking your units or moving them fast. Whether you got them on ambush mode or just on fire mode, different tactical setups that you can use for your units. So if we look at playing a game here and campaign, let's look at setting up a British Grand Campaign, semi-historical, good hunting. We'll keep everything on. Okay. I'll keep everything on recruit for now, and we'll just move on to the next thing so you can kind of see. We'll call this, what's a good name? Let's call this IDJ1. How about IDJ test? Oops. test 1. So we can just kind of test out, show you how things. So it's generating the game at this point. And I'm not sure how long exactly that'll take, but it'll give us a few seconds to talk about other things. So here we are. You can see up here in the top right-hand corner, you're going to see the grand strategic map overview. And you can see that we currently have different units that are in the same location. Basically, on June 26th, starting at 6 a.m., these units had moved into this sector on the Fontenay-Caen Road. So our object is to, obviously take our 46th 15th Division and assault the 26th 12th SS Panzer Grenadier Division. Of course, we can scroll around by clicking and dragging. There we go. You can see we've got actually 3 battles currently, maybe 4. Yep, 4 battles currently. So you can choose any one of these to fight right now. And assuming that we were able to take this sector over, these units would either retreat, probably back to this location here, and if we got reinforcements to come in, we could decide where they're going to go. But let's look at just fighting one of these. This is for Casino. This is for Mall, and this one's for Saint-Mavour. My French is horrible. Please forgive me. I was actually there in 2010. We did a trip over to Normandy, Pointe du Hoc, Utah Beach, Caen. So really nice area. I really liked the trip, and so I'm really hoping to like this game a lot. So let's just take this one here, and we can kind of click on our units, and we can see we got a platoon headquarters. You will see each one of these green squares represents one man. You can see everybody's pretty healthy. Got a couple 3-inch mortars, a Churchill, a couple Brens, which are basically like rifle sections. Obviously not, because here's a rifle section. Previous screen there. Wonder what a Bren section is. Must come with the Bren. Makes sense, doesn't it? Which is probably like a machine gun. We have Piat, which is an anti-tank weapon, a couple 3-inch mortars, and a platoon headquarters. Alright, so since we got that one highlighted, we can look at our fuel, our ammo situation, cohesion, and fatigue are all green. Green is good. Yellow in this game represents fair. Red represents poor, and black means non-existent, or you can't do it. Looks like we have 4 off-board artilleries that we could use, and it looks like they also have 4 off-board combination of artilleries as well. We have no air support at this point and no paradrops. So if we click on this, we can execute that. Yes? Next. Next. There we go. Alright, so wonderful bagpipe music in the background. You can actually click on the map. It shows us our location. We're going to be starting here. Here are the different victory point locations, and obviously the more we can take, the better off we'll be. We can actually look at our overview, and it'll show us this map is basically this section of the world right there. 8th Rifle Platoon. Can we add a couple Bren sections, support some mortars, and a Churchill. Alright, so let's go next and show you guys how this is done. So the first thing that happens is we look at the game engine. And as I mentioned, it's not horrible. It's functional. Some of the graphics are actually, the explosions and stuff are actually quite nice. The smoke is not that bad. It's just hard to pick out your units on top of the terrain. and so that's a little difficult. Once I click off of that, you can kind of see them, but when you start putting them into behind trees and stuff, and so you can actually remove the tree tops. The trees are still there, but it'll be easier to see your units. So we have a blend section here. We're actually going to move these guys up. Where should we put these guys? Right there, I guess. Alright, we also have another blend section here. We'll put these guys here. We have a Piat section. Let's hide these guys over there. Alright, so there's ways to move your map. Just move your mouse to the edge of the screen. You can use the arrow keys. Although the arrow keys, there's like this delay when you click and then it finally starts moving. I don't like that, so I don't really use that a lot. But the best way I find is to hold the shift key down and left click, and you can drag the map around, and you can see I can go from the top left corner all the way down the bottom right corner of the map just by rotating my wrist. So that's kind of the easy way to zoom around and look at things, is hold that shift key down. That's the easiest way I've found. So we do have a Churchill. We'll put him on the road. On the road, yes. Okay, close enough, I guess. Rifle section. Put these guys here. Bren section. Put these guys there. Another Bren section. We've got quite a few guys here. Put these guys there. 3-inch mortars. Put these guys there. 2-inch mortars. We'll kind of separate these guys in case they get attacked with mortars. We don't want mortars falling on ourselves. Another 3-inch mortar will move over there. And finally, our last little Bren section. So that's kind of the setup. Obviously, anything in the white area is a valid setup. This light black is neutral territory, and of course the black is where the enemy can set up. So enemies could be right here in the cornfield. If we have a quick overview of our map, you see we have a little location here, and we have a location over here. Lots of open territory, not a lot of cover in this map actually. So lots of long-range attacks. There's a nice hedgerow right there. Looks like a tree line going up along this road here. And like most of the Matrix and Slytherin games, they are trying to be as historically accurate. They spend a lot of time and effort into making the maps as accurate as possible from what was actually there. This is semi-historical, so I'm not sure exactly the difference between historical and semi-historical, but bring these Churchills up. The reason I try to move platoon headquarters, I don't know, man. A couple of their mortar shells on our guys, and we're gonna have to try and spread out as soon as we. That'll be our main objective, is to spread out, because we don't want like one mortar just landing and killing a whole bunch of guys here. So we'll spread out a little bit. All right, and Bren, 3-inch mortar, 3-inch mortar. Bring our 2-inch mortar. 2 inches have to be a little bit closer because they don't have as much range. Speaking of which, let's learn about the unit, shall we? Whenever you click on any one of the individual units, it'll select the whole squad. Down here in the bottom right-hand corner, we'll show you the person's name, exactly what they're doing at this point. So right now we got them all in ambush mode. It'll show what weapon they're using. So this guy is kind of got a gun. This guy actually shoots a mortar. This guy's got a rifle. It shows their health. All of them are healthy. And their AP and HE armament ammo. And you can see down here there's an AT and an AP line. And AT stands for anti-tank. AP is anti-personnel. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, the colors are green is good, yellow is fair, red is poor. So you can see that this 2-inch mortar is fair against AT up to 20 meters. Up to 40 meters it goes down. 80, 160 it goes back up to fair, and 320 it goes down to poor. As far as AP goes, anything up to 80 meters it does a good job of. and between 80 and 320 meters is kind of fair. So obviously keeping this guy as close to the front line as possible, because if there's units, say, down here, if we right-click a unit and go fire, you can see that from that unit to there is 150 meters. So we're already in the fair section, and of course if we keep this unit way back here, that's another 59 meters we would add on to that. So 2-inch mortars, we want to keep these guys as close to the front line as possible. 3-inch mortars, you can see that they are fair straight down the line, and of course their little box is pretty much the same no matter the distance. So you don't need to worry about keeping these guys, the 3-inch mortars, as close to the front line. In fact, we want to keep these guys probably as back as far as possible, in case their enemy tries to shell these guys and we get one that goes too far. We can actually, if we fire this guy, it can go all the way here. It's 270 meters, and you can see that's still fair for us. So keeping these guys back is just fine for right now. And of course, if we do the Churchill tank, same thing against other tanks. He's just a fair, pretty much at any distance, and AP is pretty good at any distance. So we want to definitely keep our Churchill alive if possible. So that's kind of the information. Of course, when we're talking about a tank, we're talking about all the guys inside the tank. Here's a gunner, a driver, a leader, a loader, and an assistant. Trying to keep these guys healthy. And alright, so that is the deployment phase. Once the deployment phase is over, we will get into actually playing a battle now, and we'll do that in the next episode. So thanks so much for watching. This is Close Combat Gateway to Caen, and this is your host, AJ Jester, signing off. We'll see you next time, folks. Thanks for watching.